tired of novels that just don't cut it? Books that leave you completely gutted? Well, I have a killer book for you. This is American Psycho, and you're gonna have a killer time reading it. I'm doing the solo today. Honestly, probably the way Patrick Bateman would have wanted it. Honestly, he wasn't great with people either. This novel was written by Bret Easton Ellis, a man who was wanting to critique the way the country was heading. Ellis writes in the postmodernism movement as part of the literary Brat Pack, young soul authors who were slashing through the polite norms of 1980s fiction. The genre is transgressive satire. It crosses the line of purpose, specifically to make you uncomfortable enough to actually think. To understand the novel, you have to understand the world it was created. In the 1980s, Wall Street is on fire, Reagan is in office, and designer brands are dying to get into your wallet. This is peak yuppie culture. People who would genuinely kill for the right for a dinner reservation. This is Bret Easton Ellis. Ellis lived life himself. He fell into isolation and started filling the emptiness with expensive things until he realized how dangerous that emptiness will become. So he wrote it down and named it Patrick Bateman. The book was so controversial that its original publisher looked at the manuscript and basically said, "We need to bury this," which tells you exactly how deep it cuts. There is an idea of Patrick Bateman. I use a deep pore cleanser lotion, then a water-activated gel cleanser. Always an aftershave with little or no alcohol. Alcohol dries your face out, makes you look older. Then moisturizer. Then an anti-aging eye balm. Then I put on my suit and I begin to disappear. Notice what Ellis just did? Patrick describes skincare with the same flat clinical precision he uses for everything else in his life. Everything else. So what is the book actually all about, underneath all of the chaos? It's a dissection of the American dream. Patrick has everything you've been told to want. The degree, the apartment, the money. And yet, he's completely dead inside. His obsession with status bleeds into every interaction. It gets so bad, he nearly loses it over another man's business card. A business card? Like, really? Speaking of which... That's really something. Is that bone? Cillian red lettering. That's all right. Here, have my card. I can feel my hands going numb. His card is everything I wanted mine to be. He didn't even look at it. He didn't even look at it. Dinner at Dorsia sometime? That scene was about business cards. And that man is a serial killer. I meant that both ways. Ellis is showing you someone so defined by external validation that a piece of cardstock nearly breaks him. The violence in this book is extreme, but this is the scene that haunts people, because this one we actually recognize. This novel is in conversations with books you already know. The clearest connection is with The Great Gatsby. Like Gatsby, Bateman builds his identity entirely out of performance, and like Gatsby, it dies with him. Both books ask the same question: what happens when the mask becomes the man? And here is the deeper cut. Albert Camus's The Stranger. Marcel opens the novel with one of the most famous lines in literature. His mother died, and he isn't sure when. Today, maybe yesterday, he genuinely can't be bothered to check. Now listen to Bateman describe a murder. Same voice. Both narrators are completely monotone. They report love, death, and lunch in the exact same flat, detached register. Nothing lands harder than anything else. And that flatness is the entire point of both books. Camus uses Marcel's emptiness to show a world stripped of inherent meaning. And now Ellis takes that same hollow narrator and gives him a cause. Consumer culture. Marcel is empty because the universe is indifferent. Bateman is empty because society built him that way. One is a stranger to meaning, the other is a stranger to himself. And both novels end the same way. A confession that changes literally nothing, delivered by a man nobody truly sees. Ellis also drops real names throughout the novel: Trump, Tom Cruise, Phil Collins, to anchor the horror in a world you actually recognize. Because the scariest part of the novel is not the violence. It's that Bateman feels like someone who would kill to sit next to you at dinner. And on that note, let me show you the most famous scene in the whole story. Do you like Huey Lewis and the News? You know, their early work was a little too new for my taste. But when sports came out in '83, I think they really came into their own. Their whole album has a clear, crisp sound and a new sheen of consumable professionalism that really gives the song a new boost. He's been compared to Elvis Costello, but I think Huey has a far more bitter, cynical sense of humor. Hey, Paul! That is the most famous scene Ellis ever wrote. And here's what matters for your analysis. You didn't see anything. The horror lives entirely in the contrast between the cheerful music review and what you know is coming. That's the whole novel in one scene. Bateman narrates atrocity and album reviews in the same exact voice, and that flatness is Ellis's argument. A society that worships surface-level people generates surface-level engagement and relationships. So here's why the book belongs in your curriculum, Miss Amador. There are 3 reasons. Reason number 1, no novel teaches the unreliable narrator better. and the proof is in Paul Allen's storyline. Halfway through the book, Bateman kills Paul Allen and stashes the body. Simple enough. Except later, Bateman's lawyer claims he had dinner with Paul Allen in London after the murder. So which is it? Did the murder happen, or did Bateman hallucinate the whole thing? And Ellis never answers. The novel literally cannot be resolved, and that's by design. AP Lit is built on exactly this skill, analyzing how a narrator's perspective shapes and distorts the story. Most books give you one unreliable moment to analyze. This one makes you question all 400 pages. Reason 2. It's the sharpest satire of consumerism ever assigned, and Ellis proves it on the very first page of Real Action. The novel's second chapter opens with Bateman describing his apartment, and it goes on for pages. The Toshiba television, the Wurlitzer jukebox, the stereo system, the white oak floors. He names the designer of nearly every object he touches. Not a suit, an Armani suit. Not glasses, Oliver Peoples glasses. Here's the craft move AP graders care about. Ellis writes these inventories in places of feelings. When Bateman should be telling us who he is, he tells us what he owns, because for him, those are the same thing. Now let's go back to the business card scene. Watch the specific language. When Bateman sees the rival card, his reaction is physical. His hands go numb and he could barely breathe. He describes himself as unexpectedly depressed. That's the vocabulary of grief, spent on literal stationaries. Meanwhile, when he describes actual human suffering later in the novel, the prose stays flat and boring. Ellis deliberately swapped the emotional register. Objects get the trauma language. People get the catalog language. That inversion is the entire satire, executed at the sentence level. And there's one more layer. 3 separate chapters in this book are just music reviews, full essays on Genesis, Whitney Houston, and Huey Lewis, dropped between the darkest moments of the story. Even art gets processed like a product, rated, ranked, and consumed. And number 3. The ending demands real interpretation because the confession scene refuses to behave. Near the end, Bateman cracks. He calls his lawyer and confesses everything, dozens of murders in detail on a voicemail. And when he sees the lawyer in person, the man laughs. He thinks it's a joke because Bateman is too much of a dork to have done any of it. Then the lawyer mistakes him for someone else entirely, mid-conversation. The confession fails because nobody can tell these men apart, which connects every theme in the novel into one scene. The interchangeable yuppies, the surface-obsessed society, the man screaming his guilt into a world that isn't listening, and then the final line, this is not an exit. No resolution, no justice, for him or the reader. AP Lit rewards texts that resist easy interpretation, and this ending has been argued for about 30 years. Ms. Amador, your students won't just be reading the ending. It is simply a great debate and discussion to be had.
Yo, Manish on the beat, shebang. All of my ops say dead.
My pain is constant and sharp, and I do not hope for a better world for anyone. I want my pain to be inflicted on others. I want no one to escape. This is not an exit. That's the final line of the novel. No resolution, no justice. Bateman confesses everything to everyone, and nobody notices. Because in Ellis's world, nobody ever does. And now, the mic drop.
And now, for the mic drop, I'm going to provide an FRQ from the AP Literature exam of 1975, and I found that this book was born to destroy it. Here's the prompt word for word. Although literary critics have tended to praise the unique in literary characterizations, many authors have employed the stereotyped character successfully. Select one work of acknowledged literary merit and, in a well-written essay, show how the conventional or stereotyped character or characters function to achieve the author's purpose. In American Psycho, Bret Easton Ellis deliberately constructs Patrick Bateman as the stereotypical 1980s materialistic Wall Street yuppie. By refusing to give Bateman genuine individuality, Ellis argues that a culture obsessed with consumption mass produces identical hollow people, and that in such a society, even a confessed murderer cannot be recognized as an individual.
Trust us, you're gonna love it.